Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, share the love. I don't know what's happening with my hair right now, but I think it's great. You know, it's kind of like a misty thing going on. Whew. So this will be the 5th time I've tried taping this one. I don't know what's going on. I lost my mojo. It's gone. Don't say that. Well, where'd it go? It's been such a hard 2 weeks, and I think the isolation is finally getting to me, and everything is starting to feel a little hopeless and pointless. I'm okay, but I don't know. It's tough. It's tough out there, it's tough in here. And I'm also really hit hard by everything going on with the protests. I think it's incredibly important what they're doing, and I've also been doing a lot of inward reflection around my own lack of awareness around these issues. And maybe what is even more concerning to me is my lack of interest in becoming aware. Like that's really always, that's been there. And it's not like I haven't read things, and it's not like I don't know my history, but I have this pattern, or I've had this pattern where I kind of put myself outside of the discussion. I kind of think things don't apply to me, which sounds terrible now it always sounded terrible. It sounds terrible to me now. It probably sounded terrible to me then, but I justified it. Anyway, I think that things don't apply to me, or I can't do anything to help the situation, so why am I even going to get involved? And that kind of thinking is the problem in so many ways. And that is what I want to talk about today. So, I actually did some research. This is already feeling so much better than the last few tapes. I don't know why. It's like I'm back, baby. Hey. Okay, I actually did some research for all of you. I know. I did some homework. Do I get a star? Oh, I'm gonna edit that out. I did some research. I read a scientific paper on a lot of which was neuroscience. And I did not understand most of that, but I tried. And what I'm going to talk to you about is learned helplessness. Hey. So, maybe you guys are familiar with this concept. If you are, stay with me. 1967, researchers Seligman and Meyer. Hell yeah, those guys. You know, Seligman. Good guy. They did a study with dogs, where one part of the study, they took dogs and they shocked them on their paws. They gave them 64 shocks. And then they took the dogs, and there was nothing the dogs could do to avoid the shocks. And then they put the dogs in a shuttle box. I don't know what a shuttle box is. Anyone? Comment below if you do. They put the dogs in a shuttle box. And it sounded like, so there's like a shuttle box where they get zapped. And not that far away, there's another box where they won't get zapped, so they can escape. And the dogs who have been subjected to the shocks without any means of escape didn't even bother trying to jump to the other box. And so Seligman and Meyer, in their little research lab, they're like, aha, helplessness is learned. The dogs are subjected to a certain level of helplessness, and now they carry that forward in life forever. I think there's also some other examples of like elephants being tied to something like a chair as babies. And then obviously they grow up to be elephants. And even though they're now much stronger and obviously could like just take the chair wherever they go. I'm abstracting this at this point, but it would be like they're strong enough to break free, basically, but they don't know that because they've learned this means of helplessness. So anyway, they're like, aha, helplessness is learned. And it also seems then that, oh, how do you unlearn something that you've learned? It sounds like a pretty scary conclusion, in all honesty, because like once you have it, you have it. However, what they reported in 1967 has since actually been turned on its head. And what research now suggests is that it is helpfulness that is learned, not helplessness. They've done lots of different, I'm still talking about Seligman and Meyer now because those are my main men, you know? Battery's running low, so I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. Anyway, they've done lots of studies since then, in which, not all with dogs, with humans and mice too now. Hey, science! Where they showed the animals or the humans a means in which they could get out of the situation. And once that was introduced, that was the actual like new component that came online. And it's almost like once you see that you can affect change, you can never unsee it. But that's actually the new thing that's being learned, not helplessness. It's more like helplessness is just a kind of status quo. And I'm sure it says this somewhere in the paper, but helplessness is actually in some ways a form of action too, because if it seems like there's nothing you can do to control an outcome, it makes sense. This is like fight or flight. It makes sense that you would just become passive and apathetic to store energy. Jim Carrey somewhere is quoted as saying that depression is deep rest, like depressed, deep rest. It makes sense that if it seems like there is no way out, at the very least, you're gonna tuck yourself in, you're gonna hide, you're gonna reserve your energy so that you can survive. So that's what all that passivity and apathy seems to suggest for me. And there's also things with this linked to depression where the actual symptoms of the human participants who did these kinds of studies, they were asked how they felt during and after the studies, and everything they reported is basically what people report, the symptoms that people report for depression. So to a large extent, depression might just be a prolonged feeling of helplessness. And that's why I think in addition to, yes, you're told to like eat healthy and exercise and maybe you go on antidepressants or you get talk therapy or whatever it is, those things all help. And the act of doing anything at all helps against the feeling of depression if depression is feeling like you're helpless and you can't do anything. So the reason I'm talking about this is I want to tie it back to the conversation I have with myself and maybe the conversation that some of you have with yourselves about not feeling like there's anything you can do to affect change, or maybe even not seeing a problem, because for you to see a problem with the way the status quo is means you're going to have to deal with some feelings of guilt or accountability, and maybe you're not ready to deal with that yet. You're going to have to deal with that now. Everything that exists was created by people no smarter than you or I. That's really true. So everything that we have here, sure, it's here because it worked in the past. Or maybe it didn't even work. It was just something that was implemented because some guy thought it would be a good idea. Yeah, it was probably some guy. And it doesn't mean that we need to continue on using that system, using that process, whatever it is. If it no longer serves us, we can get rid of it. We can change things. It's just that maybe we haven't been shown or we haven't seen the thing to do yet. We haven't seen how to get out of the shock box, you know? I think the more that a person feels like they can actually affect outcome, affect change, the happier they are, and probably actually the more they contribute to society at large. Helpfulness needs to be learned. There's nothing wrong with us. It's just we haven't introduced a muscle that really needs to be exercised. We talk about muscles a lot here. So I'm really pleading all of you, mostly talking to white people right now. I'm really pleading, see, throat thing. I'm really pleading with all of you, to do the work. Like really look at the places where you haven't been having conversations, you haven't been educating yourself, you haven't been reading, you haven't been listening to podcasts. Why haven't you? Why have you just been maintaining the status quo? If you're still committed to maintaining the status quo, what is going on there? What beliefs do you have about the world and the way things are that for you mean that things should stay exactly the same? And just be open. There might be some really uncomfortable moments and conversations in your future, and you know what? That's okay. That needs to happen, and you might get it wrong, and that's okay too. That's okay too. We're all just like wherever we are, and the only thing we can really do is just keep moving forward. I love you. Please take care of yourselves. Whatever you're doing, if you're out protesting, working, staying at home still, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, okay? We're getting there, all right? And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.